This is Linda Pilch, and my presentation is on the history of flowers at funerals. Flowers have always been a potent symbol for expressing many deep emotions. Flowers have long been traditionally given as a way to express feelings of sympathy or condolence. In ancient times and in even more recent history, flowers were used for their fragrance at funerals. The art of embalming is one that has been slowly worked upon over the centuries. In ancient times, flowers were not only tokens of respect, but they were also used as a means to help cover up the unpleasant odor of decomposing bodies. Depending on the environment, condition of the body, and delay in burial from the time of death, flowers were used in varying quantities to allow the mourners to be able to help tolerate the smell of the dead as they grieved and paid final respect to the body before it was interred. There are two distinct instances in history in which this practice is documented. The first instance is a Neanderthal grave in Iraq. In the Shandir caves, a group of corpses were found with soil sample that supported that they had been surrounded by plant and floral remains. The second documented instance is the funeral of American President Andrew Jackson, who died at 78 years old, and by the time the funeral took place, his body began to severely decompose. The stench from the closed coffin was so horrible that the undertaker used a mound of flowers to cover the coffin to control the smell. The potent fragrance from the hundreds of flowers enabled the mourners to sit through the service. This particular act highlights just how important flowers are for their beauty and scent. Aside from this particular use to cover the odor at funerals, flowers have also served as a sentimental token for the bereaved and the mourning. In the Victorian era, where emotions were not discussed, funerals were often held in funeral homes. Flowers served as a means of both silent expression of emotion and made the smell of death tolerable. The deep interconnection between surrounding the departed in the silent words of flowers was continued on as the other half of why flowers are commonly present at funerals. The secret language of condolence flower gifts is used to express everything that is too painful to speak of, as well as help create a beautiful final memory. Since it can be difficult for those mourning a death to put their feelings into words, flowers can act as an expression of love, comfort, sympathy, and respect. Flowers also create a background of warmth and beauty, adding to the dignity and consolation at the funeral service. In 1914, C. Austin Miles wrote the famous funeral hymn, "In the Garden." The hymn stormed the country and became the most requested hymn at funerals in the United States. The hymn also began a movement in funeral services whereby the mortuary practices of the country would revolve around the body reposing in the garden. In fact, the movement in Protestant funeral practices in the United States to use the "in the garden" theme was so strong that the funeral homes began to develop facilities which used an indoor garden as the backdrop where the body would repose. These chapels were actually solariums with waterfalls, plants, flowers, and even birds. Some funeral homes in the 1940s and 1950s utilized the "in the garden" name in their advertising. In recent years, families have been influenced by others to request "please omit flowers" or "in lieu of flowers." Contemporary values and belief for flowers at funerals are a person's belief, sentiment, tradition, creates an atmosphere, and is a freedom of expression. Flowers also minister to the bereaved by giving testimony of the love and understanding of fellow human beings. There is also a spiritual significance to flowers at funerals. Flowers are not only symbolic of the love and sympathy, but also of eternity and immortality. The life of flowers is fleeting, and they attest to the transitory life of humans. There is a profound religious symbolism in the very fact that flowers do not last forever. Flowers do wither and die, but they do not wither and die in the minds of the bereaved. They are recalled time and again as indelible memories. As humans, we tend to remember the life and death of those we love, and the final memory of them is sealed at the funeral service. Seeing your loved one surrounded by beautiful and heartfelt arrangements of flowers can help create a lasting final impression during the funeral that can bring a smile to tears. Thank you.